Welcome into 2-for-1 Drafts, the Tuesday edition of 2-for-1 Drafts. Mike, we haven't done a Tuesday podcast in a while, but it is draft week. We are doing all things draft this week, and a ton of reporting's coming out. Smoke. I don't know if it's smoke. I don't know if it's real. What's like the craziest thing you've heard over the past couple of days about the upcoming draft? We're seeing a ton of things reported right now.
I think it's just that you're hearing so much right now. We haven't heard anything for like weeks on end, and like nothing's really changed. Like there shouldn't be anything that's changed, but we're hearing just crazy stuff going on. I think the fact that Ian Rappaport said 2 running backs could go from 26 to 30 blow my mind. 2 running backs in that range. I know the Ravens maybe could go running back. They actually emphasize the running game. A running back might actually matter there, but the Chiefs, would they go running back? They just had Damian Williams almost win, Super Bowl MVP. I don't know who else in that range would be going running back, but saying 2 could go off the board there is crazy to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's absurd. I feel like it's, I don't know, man. I can't tell if it's smoke. I think the running back stuff's true. I had someone ask me recently, how many running backs do you think will go in the first round? I said, will go. It could be 1, could be 2. You can't predict what teams will do, but should go. I said, I wouldn't draft a running back before the 3rd round. Like, I just wouldn't. Like, it does not make sense to value the running back position that highly on round 1 or 2.
See, I keep saying 0. Like, I keep saying 0 because I feel like teams know, right? Like there's enough information out there. There's enough like case studies that teams have to see that that's not, you don't recruit your investment in first rounders. Like it just doesn't happen. So I want to believe, I want to think that this is the year teams actually know, but it is still crazy to me how much teams fall in love with a guy at a position and can't, open their horizons to seeing that maybe someone else can be just as good or not, if not better later in the draft.
All right, well, let's get to this podcast here. We're going to do a full preview of all 16 teams in the NFC. The Monday podcast with the AFC. I think it was over an hour long. It was a good podcast diving into each team, the draft capital they have, prospects to target, trade scenarios for those teams, a bunch of stuff there. And before we dive into our first team, the Dallas Cowboys, I have to say this a lot. I'm getting a ton of emails about the Edge Monthly giveaway. I am announcing or giving out, not going to announce on the podcast every single person getting one, but I will email those Edge Monthly subscriptions tomorrow. I will do it tomorrow, Wednesday before the draft. Really excited to do that. If you still want to enter the contest, I'm giving 20% of all that enter an Edge Monthly subscription, a free Edge Monthly subscription. All you have to do is leave a review on the podcast, screenshot it, make sure that review includes the name of your favorite prospect, and then email that screenshot to me at austin.gayle@pff.com. All right, Mike, let's get into the podcast here, starting with the Dallas Cowboys. They're in a situation, and I kind of hate the 17 pick for the Cowboys just looking at their needs. They need edge and they need cornerback. And I think the best cornerbacks are going to be off the board and the best edge defenders are going to be off the board. I think they're in a perfect situation to trade back. We talked about this before. They have a ton of players on their roster getting paid a lot of money or will get paid a lot of money in the near future. With that being said, load this roster up with rookie contracts, trade back and allocate positions of need later in the draft, because I don't think they're several players away, but I do think they need to allocate some of that draft capital later in the draft so they can, mitigate some of that cap resource they have spent on veteran players.
Yeah, they need guys who are cheap right now, and they really need as many of them as humanly possible to fill out this roster. And again, like you said, where they're picking 17th, there's not going to be great value at edge rusher. There's not going to be great value at cornerback. Dream scenario would be, CJ Henderson falls to them. I don't think that's going to happen. So obviously we like Christian Fulton. I don't know how much the Cowboys like Christian Fulton, but I think you could see a scenario, or if they're not going to go Christian Fulton, if they like other guys better, it doesn't make any sense to me to stick at 17. Like trading back is the most likely. They seem like a team, if they're not in the market to move up for a CJ Henderson, which again, we keep saying we think they'd be crazy to just go after one guy with how much they're paying, only 4 guys in their roster right now. I do think that just trading back, you'll get much better value at corner, edge, maybe a couple different positions you'll be able to pick.
Yeah, I mean, I constantly find myself like, if they do stick at 17, having to take like a Trayvon Diggs at 17, Jalen Johnson of Utah, maybe you said Christian Fulton. K'Lavon Chaisson, if he's there, though. A lot of people are saying he's not going to be there at 17. The Falcons will jump at the opportunity to take K'Lavon Chaisson.
20 guys aren't going to be there at 17 now at this point.
I know, that's true. But regardless, Dane Brugler was on the podcast recently.
Yeah.
He said he does not think C.J. Henderson or K'Lavon Chaisson will be there for the Cowboys at 17, which could force them to reach on a position of need like cornerback at 17, bringing in a Trayvon Diggs like what is in Dane's latest mock draft. All right, but regardless, we can't predict trade down situations. Maybe they trade down with the Saints, who I know you are very confident are trading up in this class. Maybe they trade down with another team. Regardless, if they stay put with the picks they have in the first 3 rounds, 17, 51, and 82. Let's start with that 17th pick. If they stay put, best case scenario that you think is actually realistic for them to attack at 17.
That's tough, man. So I don't exactly know what kind of defense Mike Nolan plans on running. I don't know their scheme for that's great, but seeing as the reports that they're high on Trayvon Diggs, he's very dissimilar from a Christian Fulton. So I don't think that's where they Christian Fulton, obviously our number 2 cornerback. I don't think that's where they'd go. So if they were to stick at 17, a position dream scenario would be a defensive tackle falls to you, I think, either Javon Kinlaw or Derek Brown. That's a possibility of that happening, or CJ Henderson. But like I said, I don't love, if we see a chalk draft in terms of, all the people who are rumored to be off the board by the time the Cowboys are picking, I just don't love sticking there.
All right, moving to picks 51 and 82. In the draft guide, PFF's draft guide that you can get with an Edge or Elite annual subscription using promo code DRAFT20, you have Connor Williams as the only poor or below average player on the interior offensive line. Could they go interior offensive line at, say, pick 51 or 82?
Yeah, I mean, you're ready like that. Connor Williams, 2nd round pick, even though he wasn't great this past season, you're still banking on him developing. Connor McGovern's now your starting center. He was a mid-rounder, the 4th rounder, I want to say, out of Penn State. I think you're still banking on those guys. I'm not sure your 2nd or 3rd rounder is going to come in and be an upgrade over those guys right away. Could be, but it might not be. You're not necessarily going to be better there. So I don't think you have to address it. I probably would at some point. By pick 123, I'd like to have another interior offensive line just for depth, but I don't think that's a complete necessity. I think they could be active in this tight end class. If Cole Kmet is still on the board at 51, I think you could see that being the pick for the Cowboys. I think they will attack tight end, even though they re-signed Blake Jarwin. I think the way they, Mike McCarthy has used tight ends in his offense as well over the course of the years. I think they'd want one for Dak Prescott if one is available.
All right, jumping to the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC East. Give me an overview of the targets at pick 21. Everyone has this team taking either a wide receiver or LSU off-ball linebacker Patrick Queen. That's the most often mocked thing I've seen. It's either a wide receiver like Jalen Reagor, Denzel Mims, Justin Jefferson, Michael Pittman, or Patrick Queen. Is that how you see this as well?
Yeah, just because I think that's where the value is going to be. And one is linebackers so bad for the Eagles. It's beyond, and TJ Edwards, Nathan Jerry, it's one of the worst linebacker cores in the NFL. Yes, you don't want to draft for need, and yes, you don't want to draft less valuable positions, but when it's that bad and you're that good of a team like the Eagles, sometimes that can be your best sort of, course of action. So I like Patrick Queen. I wouldn't argue with taking him at 21. So that fit makes a lot of sense. The Justin Jefferson fit makes a lot of sense with what they have in Alshon Jeffrey, Deshaun Jackson, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, all outside sort of receivers at this point. Obviously, Deshaun Jackson has some versatility, but I think the other 2 guys are firmly not slot receivers. So Justin Jefferson can slide in there. That one makes sense too. And then we keep saying they need to address cornerback. They obviously traded for Darius Slay, but it's still not great across from him. Avonte Maddox in there right now. Sidney Jones an option. I think they could address that, but maybe not necessarily 1st round. That could be a little later on.
All right. Well, I think the cornerback pick could be better in the 2nd round. Do you think that's where some value could be for the Eagles if they do go wide receiver or Patrick Queen in round 1, and then maybe sneak back around and grab a cornerback in round 2?
Well, it depends. It's if they don't go linebacker round 1, they better go linebacker round 2. You can't wait all the way to pick 103 before you address linebacker. You're going to have the worst linebacking core in the NFL next year. So I do think linebacker will be one of their first 2 picks at this point.
But you always say don't draft for need. I don't know.
You're a good team though.
Okay.
you are a good team, and the linebackers in the second round should be good. Like Jordan Brooks, if he's on the board at 53, Texas Tech is a good value play there. If I don't know, Logan Wilson's on the board at 53, it'd just be an upgrade there. There's a balance. Strike a balance between draft for need and then having massive holes in your roster. It's not reach for need. It's, once you get to the second round, there's much broader tiers in my mind than early on in the draft.
Gotcha. All right, well, let's flesh it out here. Picks 85 and 103. They're 2 third-round picks. Where do you see the value?
Linebacker. They traded away 85 for the Darius Slay one. So it's 103. And that's why I said, like, it could be, but 103 is so late to be addressing linebacker to think you're going to get a starter at that point. I think Willie Gay is going to be off the board by then. The guy we kept saying maybe back into the third, he's going to be off the board at that point. I don't know who you're going to necessarily be getting at that position. That could be where they address cornerback, could be where they address safety, because obviously Jalen Mills at safety position, not someone I want to be rolling in as the starter next season. So that could be more value at the safety position there. The guy that we would love to see at the back end of the third round, Geno Stone would fit nicely in there with what they do defensively.
Yeah, that would be great. All right, jumping to the Washington Redskins. And I've heard recently from an analyst that the Redskins are the only team in a position that don't need to trade down. They can either take a quarterback to upgrade over Dwayne Haskins and Tua Tagovailoa, or they could take Chase Young, a generational talented edge defender. I look at this team, they only have pick 2 and 66 in the first 3 rounds, and they have holes everywhere. I look at them as they have an opportunity to potentially trade down if a team wants to come up for Tua Tagovailoa, or hell, even Chase Young, and maybe add 3 or 4 starters with the picks they allocate going down from 2 to 5 or 2 to 6. I really like the Washington Redskins trading down. I don't see them as this locked-in team to pick it too, because this roster is not good anywhere.
Yeah, well, the one position where, not to say they're good, but that they have a first rounder at and an actual good player is at edge. The one position where they're going to draft Chase Young, they already have Montez Sweat from last year and Ryan Kerrigan. Now, Ryan Kerrigan's getting old, whatever. He's probably not any part of your long-term plans, but that's one position. If you were to say they really don't need in the upcoming draft, it would be that. But I still don't think they're going to pass on Chase Young. But this is a roster that needs talent in a lot of places. We only have them with 6 guys who are with above average projections heading into 2020. That's a bad in their starting lineup. 6 guys. It's a rough starting lineup. There's a reason they have the 2nd overall pick. It's because it's bad in a lot of different places. I think the biggest thing will be, do they see that, hey, we don't have a 2nd round pick. We dealt that for Montez Sweat last year. Do they finally move on from Trent Williams and be like, we need more draft capital. We can't keep getting in this pissing match. We're going to flip Trent Williams. Maybe it's the Browns who are interested. I don't know who it will be, who's interested. Flip him for a second, whatever, and get some more draft capital, because they do need to reload this roster in a big, big way.
That's my opinion. Maybe you don't trade down from 2, but you do move, say, Trent Williams to gather a 2nd round pick. Because, they need players. They have only 2 picks inside the top 100 when they could use, I think they need depth at quarterback. They need starters at quarterback. Trotting out Fabian Moreau is just not going to get it done. They have unproven talents like Jimmy Moreland, Troy Apke. And the offensive line isn't good. You trade away Trent Williams, you're starting Morgan Moses and Cornelius Lucas at offensive tackle behind a quarterback and Dwayne Haskins that still very young, still very inexperienced. What are your expectations for this team if you draft Chase Young? It's not going to move the needle from 3 and 13 to playoff caliber. You need a lot of talent. You need an injection of talent at multiple positions. So I wouldn't hate I know Chase Young's the most surefire pick in this class, future Hall of Famer. His gold jacket's already made up. But adding 3 starters, if you can get pick 6, I'm thinking maybe Dolphins, pick 5, 18, and 39. You could add some legitimate talent to this roster and build it up for Dwayne Haskins to potentially get better in the future. I don't know. I just don't think they should be locked in on Chase Young. At least consider the idea of trading back.
That's the thing. It's going to depend on the offers, though. Like you said, 5, 18, 39, you do that in a heartbeat. If it's 5 and 39, do you do that to give up on Chase Young?
No.
That's the thing. It depends on what offers are coming in and how desperately people want to. It's easy to say from this side. We'll say, oh yeah, trade back for a QB, but it takes 2 to tango, and you're never going to know exactly what was offered if they do draft Chase Young, and especially it'll be tough to know, or if the Lions don't even trade back, there might not be the sort of movement we expect at the top of the draft. But I still think the Chargers. We talked about that in the last pod. I'm still 100% sold that that's what they're going.
If they stay put at 6, stay put at 2, grab Chase Young, and then at 66, they aren't able to trade away Trent Williams and gather another second round pick. If they have to pick at 66, what are some options there? Because that's still a very good pick. It's top of the third round. You can still get a top 70, top 75 player on your board. Like, I think you can still add value here. Who are some names that make sense for the Washington Redskins at 66?
I think offense. If you went Chase Young, you're in on Haskins. You can't let him roll out with that offensive line right now. And obviously Trent Williams doesn't want to play. So you need a tackle, you need a left guard, you need some wide receiver help, you need a tight end. So you can go any of those routes. I think third round, my best, where I'd say is go get yourself probably a guard at that point, or take advantage of the deep wide receiver class. Because I think at guard, you can get a massive upgrade. You can get a guy who could probably start right away still at pick 66. That's a position that even the NFL kind of doesn't necessarily value, but you need better pass protection that will help you. So something like that in the third round, I could see. So I said Ben Bartch would make a lot of sense for them if he falls to there.
Pivoting to the New York Giants, wrapping up the NFC East here. Let's start with, they have picks 4, 36, and 99. And before you tell me who they should target each one, I want to know, are you buying into this idea of them potentially trading Evan Ingram, the tight end?
Yeah, because we've seen how much it actually moved the needle in their offense, and it's not much. That's the tight end position in today's NFL. There's not a lot of guys that are real difference makers. So I can see it. I think it's a very distinct possibility. Now, would I? I don't think so. I don't think you're going to get your ROI in terms of a trade. I don't see him fetching more than a third at this point. Mm-hmm. And at that point, just keep him on the roster. So I don't know who would be in the market for that. Maybe everyone's the smoke's been around the 49ers being in the market for an Evan Ingram, but I think that the Giants really aren't in a position to be dealing away players who are anywhere near competent at this point.
All right, starting with pick 4, we've talked about the Giants a ton. Dave Gettleman's potentially locked into Mekhi Becton, potentially Tristan Wirfs, Isaiah Simmons, Derek Brown. Right now, based off all of what you're hearing, where do you think they go at 4, and where would you go at 4?
I don't think I've mocked anyone but Mekhi Becton to them, just purely from the knowing Dave Gettleman's history and what he covets, big, strong dudes. Get him going. And we know this. So that's where I think they'd go. I don't see them trading back. Again, people fall in love with their guy. They have their guy. And Dave Gettleman is very much I'm very confident in my guy I just drafted.
And how could you not be with that binder? If you have a binder that thick, it's hard not to be.
Do your homework, then you know exactly what this guy's going to be at the NFL level. That's how it works. So Dave Gettleman, he's going to pick someone. I believe it's going to be an offensive tackle. They've tried to build through the trenches. Hasn't quite worked out well yet, but I don't think he's all of a sudden going to change zebra doesn't change the stripes. Is that the saying?
I think so.
Tiger doesn't change the stripes. Dave Gettleman doesn't.
I don't think either of them do.
A giant GM doesn't change the stripes.
There you go. I like that. Well, I think they have a big need at offensive tackle. I think that's probably where they're going to go. I was listening to Daniel Jeremiah's media conference call, and he's pretty confident they're going offense, specifically offensive tackle at 4. I think it's going to be Mekhi Becton. He said Jedrick Wills is kind of his new favorite for the Giants to target on his media conference call. Maybe a Jedrick Wills at 4. Who knows? We'll see. But after that, picks 36 and 99, they need help at edge. They're starting Kyler Fackrell and Lorenzo Carter at edge. They need pass rush help, and Leonard Williams and Dexter Lawrence, though better players than some other interior defensive linemen, and they're not offering a ton as pass rushers. Do they go edge at 36?
I think so. I think on the wrap, they go someone, if Yetur Gross-Matos is still there, I think I've mocked him there. I do think they could be in the market for Julian Aguara. He's very similar sort of toolsy guy to Lorenzo Carter coming out. They like big athletic dudes. So that would be Julian Aguara. So I think they could go edge at the top of the second. That's not necessarily great track record of guys hitting at the top of the second, in the second round at the edge defender position. It's not a great class for them, but there are names that we like. Like I said, if they went with the Julian Aguara, we'd be big fans of that move.
Dude, Julian Okwara at 36 would be awesome. I mean, I little biased because I'm coming off a very good interview with Okwara, but like you are really high on him. He's a freakish athlete. I mean, a lot of the line, everything's kind of the stars are aligning with Julian Okwara, and him at the in picks 30 to 40, I think would be a steal in this draft. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes in round 1. All right, pick 99. They're coming down, third round. Where do they go? Where do the Giants go to kind of help this team? Is it linebacker? I know they've invested there, Blake Martinez, Ryan Connolly, but like that's still not a great group.
Yeah, at that point you can go anywhere. If you're the Giants, like you can go interior offensive line, get a center. You can even add, probably not running back, but you can add some. I wouldn't even be surprised if they added another defensive tackle, even with 6 on the roster, however many ridiculous defensive tackles they have that are good on the roster. They could go a number of different ways. I know they're not 100% sold. Like they moved Julian Love, Notre Dame corner from last year to safety. I was talking with John Schmielk, the Giants. One of the guys who works for Giants.com said they're interested. They could be interested in safety as well. So I could see that somewhere in the third round. But yeah, at that point, they just need BPA. They just need more talent.
All right, let's jump to the next conference, or I guess next division. We're going to the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, this Atlanta Falcons team feels like they've been close for a while. I don't know, with Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, Grady Jarrett, they have a very talented roster, but they still haven't been able to put it together. Not pick 17. They're picking 16. Where do you see this Atlanta Falcons team going early in the round? You've seen someone of them to trade up. I mean, you've seen some rumors there. Do you think they stay put at 16 or trade up?
Dude, with how bad their cornerbacks are right now, just the group in general, like Isaiah Alvarez, second rounder, he hasn't been great. Jordan Miller was a late rounder last year, I believe. Kendall Sheffield, fourth rounder last year, and I wasn't even a fan of him when they did draft him in the fourth round. But he's super fast, and yeah, that's what the thing was. There, they lost their best cornerback, who he had gotten injured, was being paid a lot. They were fine to move on, I guess, but that means their cover, like, coverage wasn't even good last year with Desmond Trufant. So I do think they need corner. They are the team that looks, like I said, CJ Henderson's not making it 17. It's because I definitely think that if he falls to the Falcons will be pulling the trigger, if not trading up to go get him.
I think they're going to have to trade up to go get him because Steve and all his sources says he's very confident CJ Henderson doesn't get past the Jags at 9. I mean, the NFL views CJ Henderson very, very highly. There are some that like him more than Jeffrey Okudah. And when you have some stuff like that, when those type of rumors are flying around, I would not be surprised if CJ Henderson goes a lot higher than people think and is not available to the Falcons at 16 if they aren't able to trade up. Because I would advise against trading up. Trading up for a cornerback, it's going to be very hard to recoup that value with the picks you give up for a cornerback like CJ Henderson. I'm not super confident in CJ Henderson being a sure thing in the NFL regardless. I mean, he has some misses on tape. He doesn't have that alpha dog demeanor that you kind of covet at the position. I think there are reasons to not feel confident about your projection. If they do stay put at 16, if CJ Henderson is off the board, where could they go?
So it's weird. They have like the same, like what we just talked about with the Cowboys. You can almost repeat for the Falcons. They could go defensive interior. They could go D tackle. They go Javon Kinlaw. If he's down the board still, if they go Derek Brown, if he's on the board still, they could maybe go edge as well. They could be in the Caleb on Chason sort of mix. I think they could also sneakily be in the linebacking, the linebacking for Patrick Queen's services if they stick at 16, because they like athletes. They like on their defense. They like speed. Patrick Queen has it. Deion Jones has it. And they lost Devondre Campbell in free agency. So I do think that, if the board plays out that way, those guys could be the picks as well.
All right, let's jump to picks 51 and 82 for the Atlanta Falcons. Where else could they go in this draft? I think at pick 51, you could start to think about off-ball linebacker, maybe Willie Gay, along with Deion Jones.
They got 47 and 78.
Oh, sorry, 47 and 78. Sure. I'm reading the wrong list of picks here, but 47 and 78, I don't hate Willie Gay. Pair him up with Deion Jones. I mean, it's not a super big needed off-ball linebacker, but I think that speed at off-ball linebacker, you pick that up at pick 47, I'd be really happy about that.
That's the thing. There are a ton of guys with speed in this linebacking group. You get Willie Gay. I think Kenneth Murray will be off the board, but he obviously has as well. Jordan Brooks ran the 4.5s. Akeem Davis-Gaither, the Appalachian State guy, can fly. Davion Taylor later in the draft from Colorado can also fly. Like, there are dudes that can cover some ground that I think one of those 4 or 5 guys is going to end up in Atlanta when it's all said and done. So that could be the pick. And I think if they miss out on cornerback, you see them go corner at 47. I think that you'll see a lot of cornerbacks go in the second round this year. I just think that's kind of where the value lies at the position in the 2020 draft.
Okay, pick in the third round. Where are the Atlanta Falcons going there? Where do you think get some good names for them there?
I think interior line is still like I keep saying everyone in the third round interior line, but like James Carpenter stunk last year. I have him on the roster as poor. He's the only guy in this roster I have with a poor projection heading into 2020. And if you watched him in 2019, I don't think you disagree. I know they paid a lot of money for him, and that's why he's still on that roster. But that doesn't mean you have to start him. If you did, it doesn't mean you have to get Matt Ryan killed to justify paying him a lot of money. So I do think that could be where they end up going. They obviously love athletic interior offensive linemen. They drafted, Chris Lindstrom last year had, I think, the highest spark score of any guard. Caleb McGarry had one of the highest of any tackle. This year, I think Danny Pinter would make a lot of sense for their offensive line in terms of he's the best athlete of any interior offensive guard in this class later on. Matt Hennessy as well, Temple offensive lineman, very athletic. Those two guys. Hennessy probably more in the third round, Pinter maybe a little bit later on, but I think they could address that position as well.
All right, New Orleans Saints. Give us your full take. You're no hyperbole here. You said 95% chance they're trading up. No hyperbole. What are the Saints doing in the first round of this draft?
I truly believe when you look at this roster, Drew Brees, like, you're scraping by. Like, you got 2 more years possibly. I'm not even sure you got 1 more full year. They have to do it this year. They've pooped the bed in the playoffs the last couple seasons. I truly think they're 1 player away. They're at 24 right now. Don't have a second round pick. So either they're coughing up a future one to add another second round pick for this year, which is what they did last year, I believe, or they're coughing up future first for a second this year, or they're coughing up a future first or a future second to move up from 24. I truly believe that because, well, they've done that the last 3 years. And so I think guys they would target with the way this roster is set up, Derek Brown, Javon Kinlaw, because Sheldon Rankins, David Onyemata. Sheldon Rankins hasn't been the same since tore his Achilles. David Onyemata had the suspension last year for PEDs and then just wasn't the same. Like maybe the PEDs were a big reason why he was good back in 2018 and not necessarily in 2019. So I think it was PEDs. Maybe it was something else, actually. Maybe I'm talking to my ass right now. But David Onyemata wasn't great either last year. Or trading up for a linebacker. If Isaiah Simmons starts to slip at all, I think they are going to be in the mix to go up and get him.
Wow. I mean, that would be incredible. Going up and grabbing Isaiah Simmons would be awesome. You don't think Kiko Alonso is the guy? You're saying Kiko Alonso is not the guy?
We're talking about a little different athletes. Kiko Alonso, Isaiah Simmons, they look like they're playing 2 different sports.
You don't think that the Saints would want to trade down at all? They don't have a second round pick. I mean, I know this is a very good roster, but like, I feel like you look at teams that don't have a second round pick. They don't have like glaring needs to go up and get a guy. I always advise for the trade down over the trade up, even if the Saints feel like they need to maximize this window.
Austin, we know. We both know. You're preaching to the choir here. The Saints, though, that's not them. Like that just has never been them. So just don't bank on that happening. They're going to move up, or they're going to mortgage future picks for this year. Just guarantee it.
Do we even look at pick 88? Because they're probably going to mortgage that pick. I don't even know if they're going to pick in there. Do you think?
They'd be fine coming away.
I've been on some New Orleans radio hits, and they've been asking about them taking Jordan Love. Them potentially taking Jordan Love in the back end of the first. And I always told them the same thing you're telling me in terms of the Saints want to maximize this window with Drew Brees. That doesn't mean developing for the future and looking ahead to the future. What percentage chance do you put of them going after Jordan Love in this class?
I have said that Jake Fromm would be interesting there because he's very similar to Brees in everything except for accuracy. Like he does a lot of the same sort of pocket and like field manipulation stuff that Brees can do. Not even close accuracy wise, but like you could, if Brees goes down again, like he did last year, you could have a serviceable guy for a while. And that's why I put one of their biggest needs, the quarterback, to develop. I just don't think they're going to use any sort of realistic draft capital on it. You could see what they go. They went third round. They went the Colorado State guy a few years back, whose name's escaping me, who was then trashed, and I think he's out of the league entirely. So I don't see going earlier than that at this point.
All right,
down to their lesson then.
Let's jump to the next team here, the Buccaneers, picking at 14. Is this, you've said this before, but offensive tackle or bust? I don't know. I feel like that a lot of the offensive tackles could already be off the board. Do they maybe add a wide receiver with Tom Brady now under center? I know they have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, but maybe adding another guy there just to really just throw every weapon they've got with the Tom Brady window they have?
Man, they have to go tackle though. Like you can't, and it's because of when you have a 40-plus-year-old quarterback, it takes one hit and then he's never the same. Like Peyton Manning tore his quad and then was never the same. Like you don't bounce back at that age. So Tom Brady rolls an ankle, comes up a little wrong. I'm not sure he's going to be the same. And you can't risk that with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with how much they've just coughed up and just thrown into these next 2 years. So Joe Haeg is not going to be my right tackle next year. So if it takes trading up, if like you said, there is a run on the tackles coming and one's not going to make it to 14, don't be surprised if they're moving up in this draft, coughing up some, third rounder, a couple fourth rounders that they got. Don't be surprised if that's the case.
Here's my take. Don't trade up. Trade that 45th overall pick to the Washington Redskins. No, trade that 45th overall pick to the Washington Redskins for Trent Williams, because the tackle you grab trading up is not a guarantee to be a high-end producer in year one regardless. I think they are one of the top candidates to trade for Trent Williams, no?
I have no clue what the Redskins are doing because they sat on Trent Williams for a whole year when they're in a full rebuild. Like one of the dumbest just decisions I've ever seen. From outside, as like an outsider's perspective, like they should have dealt him right off the rip. There was no reason to hang on to him for any, like maybe again, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes with trade offers, but to think that someone wouldn't have given up a second round pick for Trent Williams last year is insane to me. Like someone had to have been willing to part ways with it. So I would give up the 45th overall pick for Trent Williams in a heartbeat. Yes. I don't know if the Redskins would be willing to give up Trent Williams at this point from what we've seen from them. And I think they could fit.
I think that would be smart. I mean, that would be way smarter than trying to fill that offensive tackle need at 14, let alone trading up to try and fill that need. Because I guarantee you, even if like our favorite tackle in this class, Andrew Thomas, is not going to be a 90.0 plus or even an 80.0 plus graded tackle in year one, you just don't see that. Like you're not going to have that production from any of the tackles in year one. Mm-hmm. It's frustrating to even think about. I don't want them trading up. I think they need to be going after Trent Williams. All right, pick 14. It's offensive tackle or bust. Andrew Thomas, best tackle available. Let's look at picks 45 and 76. If they don't trade for Trent Williams, where are they going at 45, and where can they add value at 76? For 76, I love the KJ Hill fit. I think him in the slot inside of Mike Evans and Chris Godwin would be awesome. For 45, what are you thinking?
Yeah, so I think slot receiver at one of these points. So 45, the slot receiver is kind of after the first round that I think could be available. You got KJ Hamler, Penn State. That'd make a lot of sense in round 2. You got Tyler Johnson, Minnesota. He's probably more a round 3 guy. You'd make a lot of sense. I think Chase Claypool could be like a big slot for them, Notre Dame guy. That could make sense at pick 45. KJ Hill, we said third round or fourth round. I think those are the guys I would attack if I were them. If I'm going to draft a receiver, those would be the guys that I'd want.
I mean, I'm for it. I think, people saying that the Bucs don't need to add a receiver, I would argue against that. I think adding another receiver to just fuel the fire makes a ton of sense. All right, Carolina Panthers, the Matt Rule era. How are they kicking this thing off?
Man, they're kind of a turning point in the draft because I don't exactly know where they would want to go with pick 7. Like, I think if Isaiah Simmons is there, I would go him, but
James Lynch, maybe? Baylor Bears? Reunite the Baylor Bears?
Maybe in the third. Maybe don't trade back into the first, but maybe in the third. We'll see. But I do think that the thing about drafting Isaiah Simmons, you just had Luke Kuechly. Is there some thought to, and in my mock that comes out Thursday, I don't have him drafting Isaiah Simmons because like he'll always be compared to Luke Kuechly every single year of his career. That like you don't even want to put that on a guy to do. I know that's a crazy sort of outsider, like shouldn't factor into if you draft a guy or not.
True.
But that has to, like, if you're like, you have to be thinking about that. If you're Marty Hurney, the GM of the Carolina Panthers, right? Like that's something that's probably in his mind right now, being like, he's going to get compared to Luke Kuechly and, never going to be able to fill shoes like that.
I think this is where Derek Brown's realistic floor feels for me. I don't know if the Carolina Panthers would pass on Derek Brown. I think there's a good chance he could slip outside of the top 5, top 6 and follow them at 7 and like high floor pick. You're getting a good run defender. I hate to keep
cornerstone. cornerstone pick.
But I hate to keep bringing up Daniel Jeremiah's media call, but it was very insightful in that he's like, I'm lower on Derrick Brown than a lot of my colleagues. He's not going to be a premier pass rusher, more of a pocket pusher, a lot of the things we've said. And he said for that reason, though, he's going to be a very, very good run defender. And he's still, I think, 5th or 6th on his board because teams are going to really covet that ability. I could really see the Carolina Panthers playing it safe, quote unquote safe, with a player they really feel comfortable or confident in his projection as a very good cornerstone run defender in their defense in Derrick Brown.
Yeah, I think him or Kinlaw would make sense. Like that, you could be something to kick off your sort of era there by a guy that is just going to be solid no matter. Like there, not a lot of risk to a Derrick Brown pick. Not like I think I've said.
I agree.
I said this on the forecast when I went on there. They were like, I wouldn't draft Derrick Brown in the first round. They were saying that. I was like, he's gonna over the next 4 years. I would bet good money that he finishes top 20 in terms of wins above replacement. Like I feel confident that that's going to be the case, but I'd also feel very confident that he's going to end up between 15 and 20 and not and have a much better chance of finishing there than he does between 1 and 10, because I just don't see the high end. So that's kind of where I am with Derrick Brown, that you have a top 10 pick. You should feasibly be able to chase some higher end that also has a high floor. Like guys like Isaiah Simmons, I think are higher end capabilities with high floors as well. So I think ideally it would be Isaiah Simmons, but like I said, back of your head, he's always, if you draft him top 10, he's always going to get the keeper comp. If you draft a linebacker in the second round, no one's going to ever make that comparison because, you don't have the hype there. But with Isaiah Simmons, you would.
Yeah. All right. So I think Isaiah Simmons and Derrick Brown have been two names I've seen kind of constantly mocked to the Carolina Panthers at 7. Before we get to their picks 38 and 69, the other two top 100 picks they have, I want to bring this up. Jeffrey Okudah likely is not falling past 3, 4. There's just no way he falls to 7. If he doesn't, you've been hearing rumors about C.J. Henderson being viewed higher than most. They do not have a ton of talent at the cornerback position. Dante Jackson, Dominique Hatfield, Horn Elder. This is a bad cornerback group, especially now that James Bradbury's gone. Would they be crazy to take C.J. Henderson at 7? Could you see that potentially happening?
Man. Yeah, I think they'd be crazy. So let me couch this by saying I have no clue what defense Phil Snow is going to run. If he rolls out next year and they play the most man coverage in the NFL, by all means, go ahead and draft C.J. Henderson. If you play a ton of man coverage, that's your most valuable position on the football field by far, or after quarterback. Most valuable position on the defense is your cornerbacks then. So go ahead and do that. But I think just in sort of a, from a value perspective, how we see C.J. Henderson, I think that'd be crazy to do. But that's just me.
All right, picks 38 and 69. Where are the Carolina Panthers going there? They have needs at cornerback. I think 38 would be a huge opportunity for them to address it. We've talked about that value at the quarterback class between picks 25 and 40. Maybe a Jeff Gladney here. Maybe Jalen Johnson. Jeff Gladney. I've wrote an article for PFF.com on Gladney. Written an article. Jeez. And I like the Carolina Panthers as a fit in the defensive scheme they ran previously. Obviously, you don't know what Snow's going to run, but I like Gladney and Dante Jackson. I feel really good about that speed. I feel really good about that tenacity, opposite what you feel about with C.J. Henderson. I think Gladney is a name I really like at 38.
Yeah, Gladney, the only thing about if you draft Gladney and you have Dante Jackson.
They're small as hell.
Two small-ass corners. Yeah, you have two sub 190-pound corners, and that's just something they get worried about from a sort of matchup perspective. So I think they might go, or they could be in play for a Noah Igbenogany from Auburn. Again, not sure what they're going to run, but I think he'd be a different body type than Dante Jackson there.
Mike, can I use this as an opportunity I feel like I've given you some flack for the A.J. Terrell pick. Your value of A.J. Terrell. I went back and watched all of his reps against Jamar Chase, and that's a game where people kind of talk about him getting kind of dogged a bit. But he got dogged at the catch point. But yes. I think he was in phase a ton. You watch all of his reps. He didn't shadow Jamar Chase, but he was in one-on-one, press at the line of scrimmage with Chase a lot. And I came away really impressed with that game when you didn't just watch the targets. And that first deep touchdown along the right sideline, that was OPI. Let's call it what it is. That was a late push. That was a late push, and he got kind of beat down a little bit. Did not look physical. Did not look, I would say, competent, but that's a little bit of an aggressive word at the catch point. But again, you still saw the movement skills. And you compare the movement skills for AJ Terrell versus you watch all of the routes Jamar Chase ran against Trayvon Diggs. It's night and day, brother. Like Trayvon Diggs is not sticking with Jamar Chase from a hip fluidity standpoint. So I just wanted to use this as an opportunity that I think I'm higher on AJ Terrell after going back and watching those snaps. Anyway.
No, on Dell. So his movement skills are great. Like it's one of those things where his biggest weakness, like those catch point things, he just needs to get more physical. He needs to get stronger.
Yes. He's
21 years old. Like the dude will get stronger. Like he has that. People will get stronger. That's what 21-year-olds do when they get to the NFL. That's an area where he can very much improve his sort of like, you can't necessarily improve flexibility, hip fluidity, the things he already has, a lot of there at Clemson. Mm-hmm. So I do think that he's still very much with a first round pick.
All right, before we jump to the NFC North and NFC West to finish the podcast, got a little read from our sponsors here, and our sponsors are PFF. PFF's running a promo code. Use promo code DRAFT2020 to save 30% off on any of PFF's annual subscriptions and gain access to our 1,250-page 2020 NFL Draft Guide, courtesy of Mike Renner, myself, and several others. Jeff Ratcliffe's our lead fantasy analyst, his 2020 Fantasy Rookie Scouting Report, interactive big board, new and improved player grades experience, all with new look data visualizations and advanced player production grades for every player in the NFL. You can have it all with PFF's Edge or Elite subscription. And remember, promo code DRAFT2020 saves you 30% off any of PFF's annual subscriptions. Do that. Support PFF. Support the 2-for-1 Drafts Pod. Down to the NFC North here. Green Bay Packers, your team, your hometown team here. At pick 30, everyone wants them to go after Denzel Mims. I've seen of late them going interior offensive line, maybe Cesar Ruiz or an offensive tackle like Ezra Cleveland. Where are you thinking for the Green Bay Packers at 30?
So first off, just to jump off that ad read, I'm going through right now and using the pages from the draft guide, the team pages, to talk more intelligently about this. Now, it's all in the back of my mind, but just to refresh my memory, because you have color-coded depth charts to show you where the strengths and weaknesses are, the 3 biggest needs for every team, all their draft selections, their 5-year draft history, how much draft capital they've allocated to each position. So those will be really cool to follow along with come draft day. Green Bay Packers. I'm from Milwaukee. I'm a Packers shareholder. I need to say that in terms of I'm biased in this situation. I can't help it with the Packers, but dude, they need wide receiver. They got to go wide receiver. I just was back watching some Jordy Nelson highlights the other day, because that's what I do in my free time. And just the way he attacked the football, and so many big plays were not open down the football field. It was, Rodgers puts in a spot where only Jordy can get it, and then Jordy goes and gets it. They don't have a guy outside of Devontae Adams that does that. And Devontae's not even that's not really his game, is being physical and making plays at the catch point. He is a separator. He can go up and get it, but he's not a play through contact kind of guy. Devin Funchess, kind of is at least better than what they have in the roster in that, but he can't get open at all. They need a guy who can be physical, win at the catch point, and has some athleticism. That is Michael Pittman Jr. to me. That's who I think they should go with pick 30.
Really? Michael Pittman Jr. over Jalen Reagor? If both Jalen Reagor and Michael Pittman Jr. are on the board, are you going Pittman over Reagor?
I'm going Pittman over Reagor.
Wow.
I'm putting my stamp in it. Even though Reagor is higher on our draft board, I think that he will win the routes that Aaron Rodgers likes to target more, and that's more valuable to them.
All right, talk to me about offensive tackle, because, the Green Bay Packers want to address that right tackle position. And obviously at pick 30, we don't feel the value's good. I think maybe it's Ezra Cleveland there, Ben Barch. You're picking the 5th or 6th best offensive tackle in the class at 30 if you are picking tackle. Is there an opportunity at, say, pick 62 or 94 for them to get better at that position?
So I'm going to give my take here, and this is not going to – people are going to hate this again, but this is Elgton Jenkins should be the right tackle of the future.
Oh my God. Really?
He's 6'4", 310, has 34-inch arms, is athletic, played right tackle early in his career at Mississippi State. He already showed he could play center at a high level at Mississippi State, and then played guard at a high level as a rookie. To me, he should be the guy because he has all the physical tools to do it. Yes, he hasn't necessarily done it, but we've seen he's been capable of playing a bunch of different positions at a high level. He's obviously a talented dude. That's who I think they should move out to right tackle, because it's easier to find a guard than it is a guy with the traits to play offensive tackle. And you already kind of have one on your roster in Elgton Jenkins. I would give him the shot because at pick 30, he's going to be better than what you're going to get at pick 30 at tackle, because there's going to be run on tackles in this class, and there's not going to be, it's all going to be projects at that point.
I kind of love that take, because if you're able to move Elgton Jenkins to right tackle and then maybe at pick 62 or even 94, add an interior offensive lineman to replace him and say Netani Muti, Jonah Jackson, Damian Lewis, all the guys we like at interior offensive line, maybe even Cesar Ruiz, though I think he'll go much earlier. That's the right way to approach it. Because if you try and reach a tackle at 30 or take like a Lucas Niang at 62, I mean, things aren't going to go well. Like Lucas Niang is not going to be much better, if not worse, than Rick Wagner next year. That's what you're doing.
Exactly.
If you're trying to address the position at 62. Very interesting stuff. All right. What about off-ball linebacker? They lost Blake Martinez. They're going to be starting Christian Kirksey, Oren Burks next year at off-ball linebacker. Do you see that as an option? And because I don't feel really good about them taking a linebacker not named Isaiah Simmons or Patrick Queen at 30. If they reach on Kenneth Murray, that would be disgusting. I've heard Jordan Brooks might go in the first round. I think that would be a reach. 62, 94, what's your take?
So I think Jordan Brooks would be a reach, but I think that I'd rather have him for their scheme than Kenneth Murray's. Because what they did with like Blake Martinez was they would kind of ask him to just flow with the runs. They do a lot of, they were like a gap down every run last year with Mike Pettin. Like they'd emphasize pass defense over everything. And obviously came back to bite him in the NFC Championship game. But like they asked Blake Martinez to basically play multiple gaps and just flow with runs and then clean up stuff over the top. When you've seen Kenneth Murray try to do that, his instincts and like being able to find where the ball is going have been bad. Like it could be a nightmare if they go Kenneth Murray there at pick 30 and try to get him, up to speed in that defense. It takes some instincts at the position. Jordan Brooks, I don't think has like the coverage ability that Kenneth Murray does and the pure burst, but he's a pretty darn good athlete in his own right. And he's very good at sniffing out ball carriers and making run reads that Kenneth Murray was not good at. So I would prefer him in that defense. If you are going to go linebacker at 30, I'm not sure. I don't think he's going to be on the board at 62, Jordan Brooks. So maybe if they don't go linebacker there, maybe trade up for Jordan Brooks, because I do think he'd be a great fit for their defense. But I do think like they also do need linebacker. Oren Burks, Christian Kirksey, I don't think are going to cut it in 2020.
We're on to the Detroit Lions. Picks 3, 35.
You want to talk more about the Packers? That was fun.
No, we're done with the Packers.
Okay.
Picks 3, 35, and 67. Let's start with this. What are the percentage chances that the Detroit Lions trade back from 3? I feel like it's high. How confident do you feel like they were trading back from 3 to allow, let's say, a Miami Dolphins or a Chargers to move up and grab Tua?
I'll put it right now at 75%, because it doesn't make any sense. Like they can go below trade chart value because they're still going to get Okudah, right? I would think they're still going to get Okudah. Now, the Falcons have made plays to leap up before, and if they do trade back, they could be usurped by the Falcons going all the way to 4 and getting Jeffrey Okudah. That's a possibility. But then in that case, you get Isaiah Simmons. Like you still get an impact player. So I do think there's a good chance that they do move back.
I mean, all the names that have been tied to Detroit Lions make a ton of sense. I mean, it's Jeffrey Okudah, Isaiah Simmons. Like don't go beyond that. Don't take a risk at 3 or 5, wherever they end up picking. I think the media has been right about where the Detroit Lions should attack with that number 3 or number 5 overall pick, but not much has been said about the picks 35 and 67. This team has a need at edge defender, offensive line. I mean, they could address needs at 35 and 67 as well.
Yeah, so 35, to me, I would pencil that in as an edge guy right now, just the way it seems to be shaping up. I think AJ Epinesa, if he falls out of the first round, I think that's where his sort of stopping point is, because he'd make a lot of sense for them defensively. Or I think Julian Akwara, pair him with his brother there, would make a lot of sense also. So I do think that 35 looks like it's shaping up to be an edge rusher at this point.
And for 67, is that an opportunity to potentially get better at a linebacker? Though I know they feel pretty confident about their linebacking core. Jamie Collins, Gerard Davis, they've invested at that position. That is a concern for me. Do they get better? I don't know. I mean, I think offensive line probably makes a lot of sense at 67. If maybe you can grab a developmental offensive tackle or an interior offensive lineman again, maybe double dip. I don't know.
Yeah, at that point, you're kind of just you probably hit needs that you can go a lot of different places. I don't think any position would necessarily be off the board then at pick 67.
Okay, moving to the Chicago Bears. They do not have a first-round pick. They do not have an opportunity to make a significant upgrade over Mitch Trubisky. It sucks to suck. Round 1, no pick.
Nick Foles.
Round 3, no pick. They have picks 43 and 50 in this draft. what's the best case scenario for this Bears team? Even though even the best case scenario doesn't make this team super competitive, knowing that Mitch Trubisky or Nick Foles will be playing under center.
I think safety corner, like you got to get that defense dominant. Like that's your hope at this point. You can add all the talent you want offensively. You can't. There's only so much lipstick you can put on a pig. Like your offense is not going to be great, no matter. Like you're getting diminishing returns there. But if you hit on, I've penciled in Antoine Winfield to them like at 43, making a lot of sense. If you hit on a safety right off the rip, if you hit on a cornerback right off the rip, improve upon Deion Bush and Artie Burns right now, and get that, like I said, get that defense back to 2018 form. That's what gives you a chance of not only making the playoffs, but ultimate goal, making the Super Bowl, is to make that defense utterly dominant. Now they got to hit on both to do so, but that's where I'd be going if I were them.
I love that Antoine Winfield fit for them at 43 or 50. I mean, there's been some rumors that Delpit kind of falls in this draft. If he falls to 43, I think that would be another good fit for the Bears as well.
Yeah. The fit I love for Delpit, I think I said in the last pod, Delpit to the Chargers at 37 would just be like, oof, just the most instinctual cornerback group in the NFL. But continue.
All right, let's get to the Minnesota Vikings here. They have 2 first-round picks. They traded Stephon Diggs away for the Bills' first-round pick. They have picks 22 and 25. We said this before, very similar to the Raiders in that attacking wide receiver and cornerback would be a huge step in the right direction for this team at 22 and 25. That's where the value of this draft makes sense. That's where where their needs are. I think 22 and 25 in some order, taking a wide receiver and a cornerback would be very valuable for this Vikings team.
Yeah, I just don't know. So they need interior defensive line help also. Like I could see them going Ross Blacklock, Justin Matabuki, like being a team that reaches on one of those guys in the first, because I'm not sure. So there's that kind of like second tier of DTs. That's Jordan Elliott, Marlon Davidson, Justin Matabuki, Ross Blacklock, and Neville Gallimore. That's kind of like the second tier. I'm not sure if all 5 of those guys make it to 58. Or if any of those 5 make it 58, like they could all be off the board. And if all those guys are off the board, you kind of SOL there, and you're starting Shamar Stephen again, and you can't have that happen. So I do think that they're not, like we keep saying, that wide receiver and corner, massive needs, have to hit those. But I could see a situation where they go elsewhere in round 1.
What about AJ Epinesa? I feel like I really like that fit for the Minnesota Vikings at the back end of round 1, maybe pick 25.
So Ifeadi Odenigbo was not bad last year. Like he was all right in a rotation role. I don't think they have to hit edge defender, but I do like the AJ Epinesa fit. I also think they obviously love Mike Zimmer, has always loved long, lean guys. We said AJ Epinesa, Yetur Gross-Matos, Trevis Gibson, Terrell Lewis, I think all fit that mold. And I would imagine they're going to leave this draft with probably one of those guys.
And so moving forward, with the other pick they have pick 58, and they also have 89 and 105 in the 3rd round. I think they can go, almost anywhere here. I think thinking about what Zimmer likes, though, if you can get one of these developmental pieces at corner, specifically slot corner, I think that's where this draft has a ton of value. Amik Robertson, Darnay Holmes, Kayvon Wallace, maybe somewhere in the 3rd round for the Vikings.
That would be a fun to get like a Meek or Josiah Scott, get another slot corner in there. I think they 1 zillion% need to just throw some resources at O-line. Like I gotta keep saying it in the middle of like 3rd, but like get anyone in there to compete with Elflein and Drew Samia. Like you're not going to replace Garrett Bradbury right now, but you probably should think about replacing Pat Elflein after what we've seen from him.
Yeah, it's been tough for that guy in the middle of the defense. Yeah. All right, moving to the San Francisco 49ers. They have picks 13 and 31 after trading DeForest Buckner to the Indianapolis Colts. At 13, everyone has been saying, go get a wide receiver to complement Deebo Samuel and the like. Help Jimmy Garoppolo, squeeze that window with him. I think just fill that offense with playmakers that could do damage with the ball in their hands and just let Jimmy Garoppolo facilitate. Is it receiver or bust for the 49ers at 13?
I think they could go elsewhere. I think I give them a 50-50 shot of drafting wide receiver at 13. Like that, I don't think it's incredibly likely or like 100% penciled in sort of thing at all. Like I think there's a number of different ways they go with that pick. Obviously, I think that's where your best sort of ROI, where the value will be in the class and what would have the most impact in 2020 would be at receiver. But I think they could even, like, Javon Kinlaw's on the board at 13. You're telling me they're going to pass on Javon Kinlaw? Like, I think they probably go Javon Kinlaw after their draft sort of history of late. They just love investing in that defensive line. So I could see them going back to the well there. I could see them even addressing offensive tackle and taking advantage of this deep tackle class with some foresight added here, knowing that Joe Staley's 35, 36 at this point. Like, he's no spring chicken, even though he's been great still. His days, he's not going to be your left tackle forever. So that, your guy kind of in place to take over from him once all said and done.
Man, I mean, this 49ers team is in a very good spot to get better at picks 13 and 31. I don't know if they can necessarily go wrong. I really do like the idea that they don't have a ton of needs, but I think they have ways to the football field at a lot of different positions. They can get better in that regard. I think that's where I'm kind of most excited with them. Of the receivers that say they have the pick of the litter, what makes the most sense for Kyle Shanahan's scheme? I've been asked that before. I've said Jerry Jeudy. He's the top receiver on PFF's board. But is there another receiver that you think maybe complements what Kyle Shanahan wants to do more?
No, I think Jeudy makes the most sense. Like, they have Marquise Goodwin. If you want a guy who just has speed, which I'm not sure Ruggs is going to bring too much more than just like the speed threat early on in his career. You want that guy, like, you got Marquise Goodwin. He runs in the 4.2. So he has speed. If you want just a guy to run that go route or run, a deep over, he's your guy. So I don't think that your sort of incremental returns are going to be your incremental return is going to be the most Jerry Jeudy, if that makes any goddamn sense.
I kind of think I got that. I'm not sure if I did, though. All right, Arizona Cardinals, starting with pick 8. We've seen offensive tackle. I've mocked Tristan Wirfs to them a handful of times. I feel really good about that, just knowing that they want to get athletic at that position and get help at that position. But you've been hearing Kyler Murray is campaigning to reunite with CeeDee Lamb and bring him at 8. Where do you think the Arizona Cardinals go?
Oh, man, I would love if they went CeeDee Lamb. I actually, in my upcoming mock, I have him trading back, because I think you could trade back in this and still take advantage of the deep tackle class. And this is a team that just they got a lot of holes. You're drafting at 8th because things weren't great last year. They could help interior offensive line, interior defensive line, linebacker, still could maybe use some help in their secondary. It's just a lot of different needs. So I think OT is pick 1, or O-line is their first pick, wherever it is. But then after that, man, toss it up. Just wherever the value is, that's where I'd go if I were the Cardinals.
I think they can't go wrong at pick 8 is the thing. I mean, going after an offensive tackle. Now that you're hearing Daniel Jeremiah said Jedrick Wills might go 4 to the New York Giants, I think Tristan Wirfs is my guy there at 8 if you are going offensive tackle and he's still available. If not, I don't give a hell. Go get CeeDee Lamb. I'm all for it, man. Go just upgrade this roster. DeAndre Hopkins, CeeDee Lamb. That would be pretty freaking awesome. What about the other picks they do have? Go ahead.
I mean, I'll say, dude, Larry Fitzgerald is like a shadow of Larry Fitzgerald at this point. He's great catch, great ball skills, like the most elite ball skills of all time, arguably. Dude can barely move. Christian Kirk.
Probably a great mentor, though.
Christian Kirk is just not a needle mover. He's not been good for them. I know he's a second-round pick, but straight up hasn't been. I think he broke like 2 tackles on 50-some catches last year, and a lot of them were screens. He just isn't necessarily a dynamic playmaker. So they could use that guy. So I would love if they did go CeeDee Lamb.
All right. What about the other picks they've got in this first round? I mean, in the first 100 picks here, pick 40 and pick 72. Again, more options. If they don't go offensive tackle at 8 and they have to address it at 40, is Ezra Cleveland, Ben Bartch kind of the dream scenario for them to play at right tackle opposite of DJ Humphries?
Well, so they got Marcus Gilbert and they traded for him. They don't have to year one go, they don't have to go tackle right now. Like, they can trot that back out and hope that everyone stays healthy. I think everyone just keeps saying tackle because Gilbert wasn't healthy last year and is pretty old at this point. And you just like to upgrade that offensive line. You'd like to get a guy in there. So it's not necessarily like massive need. You go interior line with pick 40, or I think they're really bad at the edge. Like after Chandler Jones, I mean, Zach Allen's more of an interior guy. They drafted in the 3rd last year. And after that, they really got nothing. So I think they could go edge. Again, I keep saying the top of the 2nd round, you'll probably see a lot of edges go.
All right, jumping to the Seattle Seahawks. Picks 27, 59, and 64. Where does it go wrong for the Seattle Seahawks at 27? Is it Isaiah Wilson? I've been hearing that. I kind of want to buy into it. I could totally see the Seahawks going after Isaiah Wilson, the Georgia offensive tackle at 27. Is that how this goes wrong for the Seattle Seahawks?
Dude, First off, in looking at their 5-year draft history is almost criminal in what they've selected. So 2015, no first round pick. 2016, Jermaine Ifedi, 53.8 career grade to this point. 2017, no first round pick. 2018, Rashad Penny, 71.1 overall grade. I still believe in Rashad Penny, but you drafted a running back in the first round. And then 2019, LJ Collier, 48.6 overall grade. It's been bad. They need to turn around that trend. This is why the Super Bowl window has not been open over the past handful of years for the Seattle Seahawks. They just haven't added talent in the draft the way they were, from 2010 to 2013. So that just has to change around. But again, the roster's so bad because of that I think it can go pretty much anywhere besides probably secondary. Not going to go secondary. Probably not going to go. Obviously quarterback. I wouldn't imagine wide receiver early, but they could still add a slot, and then any other position seems like it could be on the board.
I think they'd be best to take a corner. I know they traded for Quentin Dunbar, but they're still not great at cornerback. They could use depth in slot corner maybe in round 2, picks 59, 64.
Yeah,
but at 20
slot, yeah.
But at 27, I argue against reaching for offensive tackle need there. I think you can get better at other positions. I think they can get better at edge. I know they just drafted LJ Collier, but maybe there isn't a fit for them either. They're in an interesting spot because their needs don't really fit where they pick.
I would be interesting. I need to go do a study to see how many offensive tackles, because I know in the past 5 years I did offensive tackles drafted on day 3. How many were quality starters off the bat, and it was the lowest of any position group in the NFL in terms of just how many ended up being good. Just don't find them. So it would be interesting to me how many tackles at pick 27 are actually going to be upgrades for you in year 1.
All right, we're going to finish the podcast with the Los Angeles Rams, another team that does not have a ton of draft capital, but they're in a weird situation because they need to get a lot better. It sucks that Jared Goff is not really developed beyond that really kind of season that got him that money. But in addition to that, they need help at interior offensive line. Edge rush is a disaster. Cornerbacks, outside of Jalen Ramsey, have some developmental players. This team needs to get a lot better, but they don't have a first round pick, just picks 52 and 57 inside the top 60, and then picks 84 and 104 in the third round.
Yeah, they kind of mismanaged it there for a little bit. They had some checks that they were trying to cash come back to haunt them. That I didn't think they thought Todd Gurley would be a cornerstone piece. They thought Brandon Cooks would be a cornerstone piece, and it turns out they weren't. And that's how you get in the situation they are. But the thing is, they're still not bad off. You have Aaron Donald, you have Jalen Ramsey now. And you have Sean McVay. So I think if they just shore up that offensive line a little bit, they were in the Super Bowl 2 years ago now, in 2018 season. So just shore up that offensive line a little bit. I think 52 and 57, I could see them going O-line to try to help 2 interior guys. Maybe even one of them could be a tackle or a guy who has tackle guard versatility. Because it's bad on the interior there, and that what Jared Goff just showed he could not play under pressure last season.
I also think this receiving core needs some juice. KJ Hamler at pick 52 kind of gets me excited because trotting out Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, and Josh Reynolds, there's not a lot of juice in that receiving core. You have Darrell Henderson there that's off. I think he'll be a good skill player at that position. But in addition to interior offensive line, I don't love the weapons Jared Goff has. Yes, I like Woods and Kupp, but I still think you need some explosiveness there. Could receiver be an option at 52 and 57 in such a deep class? Maybe Darnell Mooney, Tulane.
Oh man, I don't think so. I just think they kind of saw last year that, hey, we the 3 wide receivers weren't the problem. We're they had them when they were good and they had them when they were bad offensively. I think they know that that offensive line just needs to be revamped.
Man, they're in such a tough spot. Like you said, mismanaged that Los Angeles Rams team. And I look at picks 84 and 104, and I just don't see how they significantly get better with those kind of late third round picks. It's just those are options for depth pieces and stuff. If they want to, maximize the window they're in now, really win for 2020, they have to nail picks 52 and 57, and maybe it is into your offensive line. All right, that's going to do it for the Tuesday edition of 2-for-1 Drafts. We are going to do another pre-draft podcast, our last pre-draft podcast of the 2020 NFL Draft tomorrow. tomorrow. And then every podcast after that is going to be recapping the mayhem that is the 2020 NFL Draft. Mike, I'm super excited. I hope you are as well. Until next time, guys, Austin Gayle, Mike Renner, 2-for-1 Drafts.